Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to Luxaflex product training by video conferencing. Timber shutters. Our timber shutter product range is a product that we have produced in China and we obviously bring in. Because of that, it has a fairly long lead time of approximately 12 weeks. This is also the case for our aluminium shutter products, but keep in mind our polysatin shutters are locally made up in our Brisbane factory up at Yatala, so they have a much faster lead time and usually the best option when it comes to shutters. But we're going to talk about timber today. Now, the timber shutter range that we have is made from 100% solid poplar timber. A lot of our competition with basswood is actually what they refer to as an LVL timber. Now, this is an engineered, laminated, veneered timber. And in fact, the actual end product only ends up being made of about 35% basswood. So with our poplar, it's 100% solid poplar timber. Now, timber shutters are not an ideal external product, and we don't recommend them for any outside application. Poplar timber is an organic, obviously an organic product as a full timber, and it's a completely renewable resource. Now, if you want certification, for a 10% surcharge, we can provide audited FSC certified timber, keeping in mind the timber still comes from the same plantation and the same location, but it comes with Forest Stewardship Council certification. That's an extra 10% if you've got a client that wants proof that the timber is coming from a certified forest. Our paint finish. We have a 2-pack polyurethane paint finish on our shutters. It does make them suitable for bathrooms, but again, in those areas, it must be well ventilated. Really important. Our polyurethane paint finish is much thicker and gives a better coating, which is superior to many opposition timber shutters on the market. Now, they might say they have a 7-coat finish, but they're generally using thinner nitrocellular paint. So our 2-pack polyurethane finish is a much higher quality standard and a much higher finish. Now, in the range, we've got a range of painted colours, and you can see here just a sample of some of the whites. We introduced a grey recently, so again, listening to market trends about colours that were required, you've now got a nice grey colour as a standard paint colour in your timber shutter range. There's also a range of stains as well. Now, the stain obviously gives the look of natural timber. You can actually see some nice grain through that. Now, keep in mind, guys, the stain finishes are a surcharge. So there's a surcharge that you incur when you go up from a painted finish up to a stained finish. And that surcharge is in your pricing guide, so keep a lookout for that. Now, you can also get a custom standard Dulux colour as well. So if you've got a Dulux paint colour chart and you want to pick a standard colour, that can be supplied to you as well at a surcharge. So standard whites, no surcharge. Stain, surcharge, and a custom Dulux colour, also a surcharge. Now, as we've always done with our timber shutter range, we make sure that we are using timber in its right format. So we make sure that all the timber is kiln dried and is let sit before it's manufactured into a shutter to reduce the chance of any excessing bowing in the actual timber itself. Keeping in mind, timber is a natural product. Timber will do what timber does over time, and getting some slight warping or some slight bowing in timber is characteristic of what the product is. Timber shutters obviously come in hinged, they come in bifold, and they come in sliding or bypass, we sometimes refer to. So you have all those configurations available. Now, the blades that we have, obviously the elliptical blade, which is the most common when you look at shutters. We have a 64, an 89, and 115. Now we also have a flat bladed 89mm as well. For people who have bought maybe something similar and are trying to match, there is a flat blade available as well. Now they're all available in your swatch kit. I might just hold that up, Trevor. So the Luxaflex Timber Shutter Swatch Kit is a box like this, and this box obviously has all of your components and all of your bits and pieces in it. So we'd recommend when you're selling timber shutters, that is part of your kit, and the other part of your kit obviously is to have a timber shutter panel so people can visualize that finish and the look of a timber shutter. There's a couple of different frame options. Like most shutters, you've obviously got Z and you've got L frame. Now, a Z frame obviously is a frame that's shaped like a Z, and the ideal scenario where you would use that is in a reveal where we would have this lip covering over the architrave or the edge of the wall to help cover any light gaps. Now, in the kit you get the standard Z frame, but there are two other Z frames available. There's a larger Z frame, which will give you an extended bull nose, or there's also a decorative Z frame, which creates a decorative architrave. They're not in the kit, but the dimensions and the style of those is certainly in the technical manual that you can refer to. Then you get to L frames. And I will just pick these up because, again, these three L frames are in the kit that you get. And there's three different, I guess, looks. You have a flat, very plain looking L frame. You then have what's known as a beaded L frame, which will have a groove along the front facing edge. And then you have an insert. Now, I'll put the wrong one down. So the insert has a removable cover strip, which is held in here with double-sided tape so I don't lose it, and I'll just pull that out. So you obviously have this here. Now, what this does enable you to do, this insert one, is to have your holes through here, drill through with your screws, attach the frame, and then cover it up with your piece of insert there to dress it off nicely. So that looks a little bit busier than the plain, and it usually comes down to personal preference as to what the customer wants. So 3L frames, same profiles, but they actually come in 3 different depths. So obviously if you're needing to build out, to clear a window winder, clear a door handle, you can build it out with 3 different extensions. And again, you'll see those dimensions and you'll see those sizes in the SkillTech manual. So you have the initial one, which is 47 mil, then you go up to about a 70, and then you go up to about a 75. So you have different different extension sizes there as well. Before we move on, what we might do, we've got a little video now which just shows how the frame is assembled. It's joined with corner assemblers, and like any shutter, you'd assemble the frame on the ground or on a table before you inserted or actually fitted the frame, and then you'd come along with the panel. So, Trev, if you've got that video, we might just quickly play that video of the assembly of the frame. When you're measuring for shutters, any of our shutter range, so timber shutters is no different, you're just giving us the opening size, and the factory will allow or make deductions. So in a reveal scenario, give us your opening size and make no deductions. Tell us you're fitting it in reveal and we'll make the appropriate deduction calculations at our point in the factory. If you're on face and you're measuring from edge of architrave to edge of architrave, again, give us that measurement, make no deductions, and tell us you're fitting it on face. So another thing with shutters is really important to keep in mind, and it goes across all of the shutters. If you have shutters near each other, next to each other, in the same room, and the overall drop of those shutters varies by a small amount, let's say a metre versus a metre and 2 millimetres, so 1,000 and 1,002, it's really important that you order those shutters at the same drop. If you can't order them at the same drop, mark on the order form that they are side by side, because at some point the configuration automatically takes over and will change a panel or a complete shutter. It'll convert it to another louver or a slightly different bottom rail. So if you want shutters to be relatively in line with each other and have the same number of louvers when they're in rooms or whether they're near each other, you need to make sure you either give us the same drop or you're very clear on your paperwork to us that they're side by side. Obviously, if they're more than 10 or 15 millimeters out, then it's very unlikely we can give you the same number of louvers. But deductions, as I said, 0 and 0. As far as corners and bays, refer to the measuring manual. And remember that the timber shutters also have, and the part of your kit, they have specific bay and corner posts. So in your kit, you'll see a specific bay window post. So this actually replaces what other post might be supplied or frame would be supplied with the shutter, because it has the angle on it designed for your 135-degree bay window. And we have one here which suits corner windows. So the panels sit in there at 90-degree angles to one another. So you have the corner or you have the bay window post assemblies. Now there's one other post as well that you'll always get as part of any shutter product range, and Timber Shutters is no different, and that's the T-post. So the scenario where you've got a series of panels and you want to break it in the middle to have a T-post so you can hinge a panel off it in the middle of the frame. So you call up the T-posts. Now the T-post is beaded. So the T-post has that slight groove in it, the same as one of the actual L-frame models that we looked at previously. Now, the way we currently do our timber shutters is we have what's referred to as a demold. So when you have two panels that close together, a left and a right, the actual panels are not rebated where they meet, so they have flat edges. So you need a cover strip to sit over the other to close off the light gap. So we refer to that as a demold. So if you want the demold to be on the right-hand panel, when you specify two panels, left and right opening, you have essentially an LR. So left panel, a right panel. The demold is up to you to tell us where you want that. If you want the demold on the right-hand panel, then you would be ordering an L-DR. If you wanted that demold on the left-hand panel, you would be ordering an LD-R. What that means is that the side that has the demold is the panel that needs to open first before you can open the second panel. So you do need to specify what panel you want the demold on. Hinges, there's obviously a range of hinges. Now, there's one hinge here which is probably different to any other of the shutter products that we use, and that's our pivot hinge. Now, the pivot hinge will allow you to put a shutter within an opening without a frame. Always our strong recommendation with shutters that frames are the better option. You can put the frame in, you can get the frame squared up, and then when you hang the panel, it hangs nicely. But there are those applications where people want no frame and they just want to have hinge at the top and a hinge at the bottom. So there's no side hinges as such, it's just a hinge at the top and a hinge at the bottom. So you can call up a pivot hinge option with the timber shutter range. Obviously specialty shapes. We can do circles, we can do arches, we can do triangles. Now that goes right across the timber shutter product range, so you have the ability to do those. Do need to give us some very, very specific measurements when you're doing that, and obviously there's surcharges for that in the pricing guide as well. Now sometimes with shutters there's a need to replace a louver, whatever need. There may be damaged in transit, there could be something that's damaged by the consumer in the home. It's a really simple process to replace a louver, and we can get replacement louvers from our supplier if need be. So we have a little video here which will just show you how that is done, and then I'll point out a couple of things at the end of the video. the pivot point or the pivot pins that are in the frame that hold that louver. One of those is spring loaded. So obviously the broken louver or the damaged louver is removed by taking the screw out of the tilt bar so it's not connected to the others. Sometimes you've got to break the louver to get the louver out, but inserting the new louver is as simple as put one pin in, connect the blade into that pin, and then at the bottom or the top, just depress the spring-loaded pin connector, move the blade over it, and obviously that pin will spring back into position and hold that louver into position. Then reattach the louver or the blade, reattach that to the tilt rod connector or the tilt bar. It's quite a simple process to do. Cheers.